Let me show you guys something that is bubbling online. Megyn Kelly, who has a huge following, and I think we've all talked about her. She sometimes says interesting things about ICE and Jeffrey Epstein. And today she said a fascinating thing about pedophiles. This is Megyn Kelly on her own very popular podcast. She said this, quote, "I know somebody very close to this case. Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. He was into the barely legal type, like he liked 15-year-old girls. He wasn't into like 8-year-old girls. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. I'm not sure what to do with this, but I do think it's important to point out, having interviewed as many of the victims as I have, that a 15-year-old is not barely legal. She is illegal. She's a child. Federal child sex trafficking laws consider that the crime of child sex trafficking. So is a 16-year-old. So is a 17-year-old. So liking barely legal is like Megyn Kelly today calling Jeffrey Epstein a pedophile. And Angela, what seems like this could be construed as is Megyn Kelly softening her massive audience for something really bad in the Epstein files about Donald Trump when it comes to, quote, barely legal.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, and I think, she should go to Truth AI, right, and ask it its question. She'll get an honest answer here, which is that 15 and 5, you're still a pedophile. It's still bad. And I think you're right. I think that's what she's doing for her audience. She's softening it. And in the rest of that segment, you could tell she was clearly trying to soften the ground and anticipate things. She then went on to defend Trump explicitly because she said, and there's never been, any claims about Donald Trump doing anything or being interested in younger age women. He owned a Miss Teen pageant. Surely something would have come. I mean, there was the report about him going backstage, but there weren't any reports about him doing anything inappropriate. So even as she was trying to pull the thread on that, which is where that was going, that sort of lead up to Jeffrey Epstein was to, again, try to soften him a little bit because of the relationship. But she closed by making the point about Trump and his ownership of a teen pageant. And she was trying to explain that surely he would have had every opportunity to pursue people of that age with the pageant, but he didn't. So that's how you know it's not a thing. And then she sort of moved on to the next topic. And that juxtaposition was very weird, but certainly purposeful. And I think there's a reason why the rest of the right-wing media, as these reports were initially unfolding, this leaked all these emails, didn't say anything about it until much later in the day when the White House finally started to engage on it. They were waiting. This is what happens when you dive in, like Megyn Kelly did. It comes out very disturbing.
Megyn Kelly also said this, quote, "I'm just giving you facts, like that he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were." So if you're a very young teen type passing for younger, I don't know if she's saying that they looked younger than 15, but here's her quote. "But they would look legal to a passerby. And that is what I believed. And that is what I reliably was told for many years." So Megyn Kelly saying for the first time on her podcast that she had knowledge of what is a technical legal crime. And she'd know this better than me. I believe at some point she was a lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein carrying out the crime of child sex trafficking. But because his fetish was girls that, quote, look like very young teen types, Sam?
The whole thing is incredibly uncomfortable. I listened to it and, I was wondering why she was even going to this place. It wasn't like she had to make these semi-artificial distinctions here, right? As you note, this is still an underage girl that she's talking about. It kind of reminded me, if you remember back during the Roy Moore scandal when he was running for senator in Alabama, this was a very similar defense offered to Roy Moore. Obviously, that didn't work out well. But I think what's happening here is that we're seeing sort of classic audience capture. And by that, I mean people who are on the right, who have spent a lot of time saying and demanding that the Epstein files be released, and who even over the course of the summer when this first surfaced were demanding the Epstein files be released, have now kind of contorted themselves to get into a place where they can talk about it in a different way that isn't necessarily defending Trump, but trying to come to some sort of defense of the general story or dismissing it outright. And look, Megyn Kelly has a huge audience, but she also wants to retain that audience. And I think for that reason, you see her make these odd distortions and distinctions that, frankly, anyone else listens to and says, well, what difference does it make? 15 or 8, this is still a grotesque, illegal act. You don't need to parse these odd distinctions.
She's really hung up on ages, and she does it one more time. And I just want to give her the benefit of all the time she makes the distinction between ages, all underage, but she does it again between 10 and 14. And let me just read this transcript to you. Again, this is Megyn Kelly, quote, yeah, so I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was under 10, I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. You can say that's a distinction without a difference. I think there is a difference. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, you know. So Megyn Kelly today seeming to come out in defense of someone who targets someone who's 15 as opposed to under 5. We'll stay on top of that story. Sam Stein and Angelo Carasone, thank you both so much for spending time with us today on both these stories. Quick break for us. We'll be right back.